right. So let's talk about what we could do in school. All right, Anthony. So tell me all about what you could do in school. All right. So say if a new teacher or say if a teacher who doesn't know, say if a teacher or a student that you don't know, I guess, or if somebody's sitting in your assigned seat, or yeah, sitting in your seat, and if it's somebody you don't know, then you say hi. I should probably say hi. My name is Anthony, and may I please have my seat? Instead of just saying, hey, you're sitting in my seat. Because if I just say that, they might say no, and they might tell me that I could find another seat. So, if a teacher, if a like say if a substitute paraprofessional was sitting in my seat, or yeah, and if I just say, excuse me, you're sitting in my seat, and if I ask them to get out of my seat, they might say no, and they might tell me to find another seat. So maybe I should say it politely. I should probably say, hi, my name is Anthony, and may I please have my seat? And maybe they'll get out of my seat and they'll go to another seat. But if I just say, excuse me, you're sitting in my seat, and if I ask them to move out of my seat after saying that, they might say no, and they might tell me to find another seat. So if somebody's sitting in my seat, I need to ask them politely, can I have my seat? But if a student is sitting in my seat, and if I know the student's name or something, I could say, excuse me, and I say the student's name, and I say, may I please have my seat? Yeah, if it's a student that I know, then I could say, excuse me, and I could say the student's name, and then I could say, may I please have my seat? Yeah. Yeah, if somebody's sitting, yeah, and also sometimes if a teacher's sitting in your seat, when you ask them, can they have your seat? Sometimes they'll say they'll be with you in a minute, and they'll get out of your seat in a minute. So yeah, some teachers will do that. Yeah, some teachers will do that. So yeah, sometimes if you ask a teacher, can you have your seat back? Sometimes they'll say they'll be with you in a minute, and sometimes they'll say that they'll get out of your seat in a minute. Yeah, some teachers will say that. Yeah, but I gotta make sure that if somebody's sitting in my seat, I need to ask politely, could I have my seat? But if I don't ask politely, then the person might say no, and they might tell me to find another seat. So I need to ask politely. If it's somebody I don't know, I need to say, hi, my name is Anthony, and my assigned seat is right here, and may I please have my seat? But if I just say, excuse me, you're in my seat, they might say no, and they might tell me to find another seat. So I gotta make sure I ask politely if it's somebody new. Yeah. If somebody's sitting in my seat, I need to ask them really politely, can I have my seat? Yeah. I need to ask them politely, not just say, excuse me, you're in my seat. Yeah, that might not be polite. It might be impolite. But yeah, if somebody's sitting in my seat, I need to make sure I ask politely. Yeah, but sometimes they'll ask you to wait and they need more time. Sometimes when they need more time, they'll say they'll be with you in a minute and they'll get out of your seat in a minute. Yeah, sometimes if somebody's sitting in your seat, sometimes they'll need more time. And sometimes they'll say they'll be with you in a minute. And sometimes they'll say they'll move out of your seat in a minute. Yeah, that's what they'll say sometimes if they need more time. But yeah, if somebody's sitting in my seat, I need to make sure I ask politely if I could have my seat. Because if I don't ask politely, then then they might say no, and they might tell me to find another seat. Yeah, so I gotta make sure I ask politely. If somebody's sitting in my seat, I need to ask politely if I could have my seat. Yeah. All right. Now let's move on. So if a teacher tells me something, sometimes, yeah. So sometimes if a teacher tells me I have to do something, or if a teacher asks me to do something, then sometimes I just gotta say okay, and I'll do that because when I because Friday I had to complete something in art class, and then Miss Carey said, Anthony, you still have some work to do in art class, and then I said, oh man, and then Miss Carey said that I could have just said okay, and then I said, why should I have said okay, and then Miss Carey said, because if a teacher says that you need to do something, if a teacher asks you to do something, then okay would be the right response. Yeah, okay would be the right response. But oh man, that's not the right response. Yeah, if an adult asks you to do something, or if an adult uh, tells you to do something, then okay would be the right response. But if you say oh man, then it sounds like you're trying to be sassy, and I don't want and mostly I'm not sassy. So, and I'm not going to be sassy. So, from now on, if a teacher says something like, "Oh, Anthony, you have some work to do," I'm going to try not to say anything like, "Oh, man," or "Okay, fine." Because if I do that, then it sounds like I'm being sassy. Yeah. Or if I have an attitude, that's being sassy. And I'm going to try not to be sassy. Yeah, I don't want to be known as a sassy kid in school. And I don't want to always be sassy in school. So I'm going to try not to have any attitude, a bad attitude. Yeah, I'm going to try not to get nasty and try to act like I'm an adult. Even though I mostly don't act like I'm an adult. I'm going to try not to. I don't usually try to act grown. Yeah, but if I do try to act grown, then that's just uh that's just me misbehaving. But yeah. Yeah, but so if a teacher asks me to do something, or if a teacher tells me that I need to do something, or if they tell me to do something, then okay would be a right response. But if I try getting sassy or mouthy or talk back, then that's being sassy. If I say, "Oh man," or "Okay, fine," or if I try to talk back, that's being sassy. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to be a sassy kid. So, okay, I'll do that. Or giving a teacher a thumbs up. That's the correct response, and that's the right response. But saying, "Oh man," or "Okay, fine," or trying to get mouthy and run your mouth and talk back, then that would probably be being sassy. That's sassy behavior. And I'm going to try not to be sassy in school. And I'm going to try not to have sassy behavior. Talking under your breath, that could be sassy too. Yeah, talking back and talking under your breath at the teachers, that's being sassy. And I'm going to try not to be sassy. And I'm going to try not to have sassy behavior. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to try not to be sassy. Because being sassy is rude and disrespectful. Yeah, it's rude and disrespectful to be sassy. For real. So, I'm going to try not to be sassy. I don't want to be known as a sassy person, so I'm going to try not to be sassy in school or anywhere else, because sometimes not good things happen when you be sassy. So I'm going to try not to be sassy. So that means if Miss Carey says something like, "Oh, Anthony, you have some work to do," or "Anthony, it's time to do your work," or if she asks me to do something or tells me to do something, okay, I'll do that. Or if I give Miss Carey a thumbs up, that would be a polite way to respond, and that would be the correct response. But if I say things like, "Oh man," or "Okay, fine," yeah, if I say things like that, then it sounds like I'm trying to be sassy, and it sounds like I'm trying to get smart. And being sassy is not being being sassy to teachers is not cool. So I'm going to try not to do that. So I'm going to try to do things like say, "Okay, I'll do that." Or if I give Miss Carey a thumbs up, to let Miss Carey know that I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. That would be a correct way to respond. Yeah, but yeah, I could, if Miss Carey says things like, "Anthony, it's time to do your work," or "Anthony, you have some work to do," or if Miss Carey asks me to do something or tells me to do something, or if she asks me to give her a favor, I'm going to try to say, "Okay, I'll do that." Or I could give Miss Carey a thumbs up to let her know I'm going to do her favor. And I'm going to give her a thumbs up to let her know that I'm going to do my job. Yeah, that's being a serious student, and that's also polite. And okay, and I'll do that. If Miss Carey asks me or tells me to do something, saying okay is a polite response, and it's the right response. Also, asking why, that's an impolite response. Yeah, asking why. Yeah, it's impolite. So yeah, but saying okay and I'll do that. Yeah, saying okay that's a polite response, and that's the right response. Yeah. Yeah, that's my goal, to be polite and to not be sassy. That's my goal. All right, next one. So when I'm in class, so I'm gonna try my best not to. All right, let me think about my other goals. All right, so all right, all right. So if I'm in class, I gotta make sure my all of my stuff is where it's supposed to be. Like if when I go to my teacher Miss Bosher's class, I guess my binder and my Chromebook could be on my desk. But if I had something else like a lunchbox or a water bottle, it would have to go in my cubby. Like, remember, I used to have a cubby in elementary school. Yeah. But I have a cubby again in middle school. I had one in like third grade or something. When I was in elementary school, I had a cubby. But I have one again in middle school. I have a cubby. So if I'm in class, if I'm in Miss Bossard's class, then I guess my binder and my. So the rules, I have to have my point card in my position, and my point card is in my binder. So my binder and my Chromebook could go on my desk. But if I had something else like a lunchbox or a water bottle, it could go on my cubby. So it's not in the way. Yeah, just to make sure it's not in the way. But if it is in the way, then either the teacher will move it, or they'll ask you to move it, and they'll ask you to put it in your cubby. Now, if I'm in social studies class, I guess my binder and my water bottle and lunchbox could go on the vent, but it just can't be on the fan. Because if it's on the fan, then the social studies teacher will move the stuff, or he'll ask you to take it off the fan because it can't be anywhere on the fan. Probably because of, so it could avoid fire hazards or stuff. Yeah, I think that's probably why, because of fire hazards. That's probably why he doesn't want students to put stuff on the fan. And I think he also said that the teachers got yelled at. He even said that most of the teachers at Skyline Middle School got yelled at for allowing their students to put their stuff on top of the fan. So it could be on the thing, but it just can't be on top of the fan. You got to push it back so it's not on the fan. But that's what I do. I try pushing it back so it's not on top of the fan. That way we could avoid fire hazards and stuff like that. That's probably why it can't be anywhere on the fan. Yeah. Or the heater or whatever it's called. But yeah, you gotta push it back so it's not on top of the fan or the heater or whatever it's called. But yeah. Now, if I was in science class, I guess you could put your stuff in the windowsill. Because if I had a water bottle on top of my desk, then either my paraprofessional will move it out of the way, or they'll ask me to move it out of the way. Well, a paraprofessional, maybe they're going to want to move it because they feel like it would probably be easier if they move it out of the way. But yeah, it would probably make them feel good if they move it out of the way. But I feel like it would be more better if they asked a student to move it. Because, yeah, but sometimes a teacher's gonna touch your stuff if it's in the way. But either way, the teachers don't get to do whatever they like with your personal property, though. Yeah, I mean, your teachers or your paraprofessionals, they don't get to do whatever they like with your they don't have the right to do whatever they like with your personal property. Because my teacher, Mr. Fortuna, said that the paraprofessionals get to do whatever they like with my personal with my water bottle, but that's not true. Because I just did some research. Yeah, Mr. Fortuna was incorrect because I just did some research and it said no. It said that your teachers do not have the right to do whatever they like with your personal property. But if you were doing stuff like misusing it, like shaking it or playing with it, or if you were using it to distract others, then the teacher might have the right to take your water bottle until the end of the class or until the end of the school day. Yeah, or until the end of the lesson. But I don't usually do that. I don't misuse my water bottle. But yeah, the teachers and paraprofessionals, they don't have the right to do whatever they like with your personal items, but sometimes I don't think they're moving your stuff to be rude. They're doing it, so I guess they're doing it so it's not in the way. But yeah, the paraprofessionals and stuff, they don't get to do whatever they like with your personal items because I just did some research about it, and it said your teachers or your paraprofessionals, they don't have the right to do whatever they like with any of your personal items or any of your personal property. It said your paraprofessionals don't have the right to do whatever they like with your personal items. So yeah, Mr. F was incorrect when he said they get to do whatever they like with it. But he was incorrect because I just did some research, and it said the paraprofessionals don't get to do whatever, they don't have the right to do whatever they like. The paraprofessionals don't have the right to do whatever they like with your personal property. Yeah, that's what it said when I did research. It said your paraprofessionals don't have the right to do whatever they like with your personal property. That's what it said. Yeah, but so when I'm in class, like if I'm in Miss Bossard's class, I gotta make sure that, my binder and my Chromebook could go on my desk. But if I had my lunchbox and my water bottle, it could go in my cubby, so it's not in the way. Now, if I'm in, that's how it works in Miss Bossard's class. But if I'm in social studies, I have to I could put it on the I don't know what it's called, but it can't be on top of the fan, so you got to push it back so it's not on top of the fan. It's something in the classroom that's near the window, but it's connected. It's near the window, but I think it's a heater, but you could put it on there, but you got to push it back so it's not on top of the fan. Because if it's on the fan, it might have a fire hazard. And my social studies teacher said that the teachers at Skyline Middle School got yelled at for allowing their students to put their stuff on top of the fan. So you could put your stuff on top of there, but it just can't be on the fan. I think that thing by the window with the fan, I think it's called a heater. I think it's called a heater. Yeah, I guess that's the only place we could put it, because I don't know, but it just can't be on top of the fan. So you're gonna have to push it farther up so it's not on top of the fan. Yeah. And so I gotta make sure that all of my stuff could be in my position, and I gotta make sure I put I gotta make sure I put my personal property in a safe place at all times. That's my other goal. All right, now moving on to my next goal. So all right, now say if I was in my math class, and if my next thing on my schedule was to do my reading enrichment activity, if I had to do a reading enrichment activity. Now, say if I was reading, and if a paraprofessional interrupts you from reading to ask you questions. I remember when my paraprofessional kept on interrupting me from reading to ask me questions. And then I talked under my breath like, "Oh no, what?" And then and then and then she said, "What happened?" And I said, "You're interrupting me from reading. I'll answer your questions once I'm finished reading." And then Sandra said, "Oh, okay." Yeah, so maybe talking under my breath won't help anything. And making noises and stuff, it won't help anything. But maybe if I just say, "Excuse me, you're interrupting me from reading. I'll answer your questions once I'm finished reading." Yeah, that would be polite. Yeah, you could just say, "Excuse me, you're interrupting me from reading. I'll answer your questions once I'm finished reading." Yeah, that's what you could say if a paraprofessional interrupts you from reading to ask you questions. If a paraprofessional that's not work if a paraprofessional yeah, because if a paraprofessional interrupts you from reading, from doing, if a paraprofessional interrupts you from complete if a paraprofessional interrupts you from doing your reading enrichment activity to ask you questions, you could say, "Excuse me, you're interrupting me from doing my reading enrichment activity. I'll answer your questions once I'm finished my reading enrichment activity." Yeah, that's probably what I could say if a paraprofessional interrupts me from doing my reading enrichment activity to ask me questions. Yeah, that's what I could say if I was busy doing my reading enrichment activity, and if my paraprofessional interrupts me from doing my reading enrichment activity to ask me questions. Yeah, so I could just say, "Excuse me, you're interrupting me from doing my reading enrichment activity. I'll answer your questions once I'm finished doing my reading enrichment activity." Yeah, that's something I could say. My goals, yeah, be polite. All right, now I guess we could move on to my next one. Let's see. Let me think of one. Let me think of one. So when I first get in the classroom, I need to make sure that I I need to make sure that I read the directions. If the directions were on a smartboard, I have to walk in, and before I do anything, I need to go up to the smartboard and read the directions. Because sometimes I'll walk in the classroom and automatically take a break and take a walk break. But yeah, because 2 days in a row, I walked in the classroom, and instead of taking automatically coming in the classroom and taking a walk break, I read I read the directions, and I think I got pause points for that. But the second time, I was doing good until when it was time to take a test. I wasn't being a serious student, and I was doing my own thing. Yeah, I'm gonna try to be a serious student, and I'm gonna try to do my job without being reminded or prompted. Yeah, and I'm gonna try to do, yes, I need to do, sometimes I need to do things in school without being prompted or reminded. Yeah. A paraprofessional or a teacher shouldn't have to remind me to do everything. Sometimes I have to do some things without being reminded or prompted by any teachers to do anything. Yeah. Yeah. Like saying, like using my manners. I need to say thank you without being asked by a teacher or a paraprofessional. Like if a classmate does something nice for me, I need to say thank you without being asked by a paraprofessional or a teacher. Yeah, if somebody does something nice for me in school, I need to say thank you without being asked or without being reminded or prompted. Yeah, I need to do some things in school without being reminded or prompted. Yeah, a teacher or a paraprofessional shouldn't have to remind me or prompt me to do everything. Sometimes I have to do things without being reminded or prompted. Yeah, that's my goal. Don't wait for a teacher or a paraprofessional to remind me or prompt me to do everything. Sometimes do things without being asked or without being reminded or prompted. Yeah, that's my goal. All right, let me think of a next one. think I need to do a little bit of research. I'm a person who researches a lot. So I gotta do research because I do a lot of research. All right, so when I'm in school, I'm gonna try to consistently show great character, kindness, responsibility, teamwork, effort, participation, helping others, good work ethic, and involvement. Uh, extra, extra cure, extra curriculars, extra curriculars, extracurriculars. Sorry if I said this word incorrectly. Yeah, extracurriculars. Volunteering while also being respectful and reliable. Punctual, reliable, punctual, following rules to stand out as a positive role model beyond just academics, often by demonstrating specifically monthly traits like preservance or integrity. Great areas to focus on: character and behavior. Be kind, helpful, respectful to teachers and peers. Show integrity and be a positive influence. Effort and work ethic. Participate actively in class, put full effort into your work, show motivation, and demonstrate a strong work ethic, even in difficult subjects. Responsibility. Be on time, follow school rules, and be responsible for your actions and learning. Involvement and service. Join clubs, sports, or volunteer in the community or at school. This shows com- commit commitment beyond academics. Consistency. It's about, I was just checking to see if I said this word incorrectly. I think it's consistency. Yeah, it's consistency. It's about sustained, sorry if I said this word incorrectly. Sustained positive actions, not just one great deed. How to get noticed by teachers. Build relationships. Connect with teachers by showing genuine interest in the subject and get their guidance. Help others. Support classmates. Offer help. And be a good team player in group projects. Shine in different ways. If you're not always the top academic student, focus on demonstrating specific traits like behavior, bravery, curiosity, curiosity, curiosity. Sorry if I said this word incorrectly. Curiosity or passion. As schools often rotate these focus areas. Go to the extra mile. Do small, kind gestures like helping a friend or sharing a family receipt with teachers' notice. Example criteria, varieties, varies. Sorry if I said saying this word incorrectly. by school. Character traits: honesty, loyalty, courage, compassion, perseverance, perseverance. I think this is how you spell it, perseverance, friendship, and self-discipline. Effort: most improved, best attitude, and most dedicated. Participation: enthusiastic, contribution to class. Role model: follow rules, arrives on time. Support others. What to expect when chosen varies. Varieties? Varies? Oh, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments if how to say this word correctly, I guess. I mean, I hope you're able to comment, because sometimes YouTube will turn off my comments. But if I notice that YouTube turned off my comments, then I'll turn them on, because I want the comments to be on and not off. Yeah. But anyway, a certificate of recognition, lunch with the principal or other staff, gift certificates or small prizes, recognition, recognition in school, newsletters, or assemblies. By combining strong academics with excellent character and active participation, you significantly increase your chances of being selected. Yeah, I really want to make Student of the Month for February, because maybe I haven't been being really much of a serious student in January, because I got X's on my point sheet. But I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But if I don't, then I'll try to make Student of the Month for February. Alright, guys. Now I'm going to describe myself with a word that starts with the same letter as my first name. Alright, so my name is Anthony, and Anthony starts with the letter A. And I'm going to describe myself with a word that starts with the same letter as my first name. So, okay. Words you can describe yourself with that start with the letter. Alright, so I'm gonna describe myself with some words that start with the same letter as my first name. And my name is Anthony, so I'm gonna describe myself with a word that starts with the letter A. All right, so I'm accomplished, I'm adoptable, I'm immoral, I'm agreeable, all, I don't know, I don't know what this word says, altruistic, altruistic, I'm amazing, I'm approachable, I guess I'm approachable, I don't know, articulate, let's see, actually, yeah, I'm adaptable, I am ambitious, I'm ambitious, I'm analytical, sorry if I'm saying this word incorrectly, analytical, art, articulate, I think this is how you spell this word, articulate, authentic, adventurous, 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 and altruistic, altruistic, sorry if I'm saying this word incorrectly, I'm amiable, I think this is how you spell it, I'm amiable, I'm astute, I think this is how you spell it, I'm astute, and I'm assertive. I'm all of this stuff. All of these words start with the same letter as my first name. And I am every single one of these words because all of these words mean something positive. Yeah. I'm adaptable. I'm ambitious. I'm analytical. I'm articulate. I'm authentic. I'm adventurous. I'm altruistic. I'm amiable. I'm astute. And I'm assertive. Yeah. I'm sorry if I said some of these words incorrectly, but I'm every single one of them because these words mean some positive things. Why is this word highlighted? Ignore this. I'm sorry that this is highlighted. Ignore this, guys. But I'm every single one of these words because these words mean something positive. I'm adaptable. I'm ambitious. I'm analytical. I'm articulate. I'm authentic. I'm adventurous. I'm altruistic. I'm amiable. I'm astute, and I'm assertive. Sorry if I said some of these words incorrectly, but I am every single one of these words because these words mean something positive, and all of these words start with the same letter as my first name. Yeah, I am every single one of these words. Yeah, I decided to describe myself with a word that starts with the same letter as my first name. And my first name is Anthony. And Anthony starts with the letter A. So I'm describing myself with some words that start with the letter A. And I am every single one of these words. These words mean something positive. Yeah, so I am every single one of these words. Yeah, I am every single one of these words right here. Alright, guys. I guess I'm gonna end the vlog. Yeah, we were talking about me and Cesar. Actually, yeah, me and Cesar were talking about school, and I described, yeah, we were talking about things we were supposed to do at school. All right, let me start all over. All right, so me and Cesar were having a conversation about things that I'm supposed to do in school, and after that, I described myself with some words that start with the same letter as my first name. And I am every single one of these words because these words mean something positive, and these words start with the same letter as my first name. Yeah, I am adaptable, I'm ambitious. I'm analytical. I am articulate. I am authentic. I am adventurous. I am altruistic. I am amiable. Amiable, I think. Amiable. I am astute. And I am assertive. Yeah, sorry if I said some of these words incorrectly, but every single one of these words, because these words mean something positive, and these words start with the same letter as my first name. Alright, guys, I guess I'm gonna end the blog. Wait, before... Actually, no. Before we end the blog... How about this? Cesar, how about you describe yourself with some letters that start... How about... Alright, so how about you describe yourself with some words that start with the same letter as your first name? How about you describe some words with... How about you describe yourself with some words that start with the same letter as your first name? How about that? Yes, that would be a good idea. I'm gonna describe myself with some words. Hi guys, my name is Cesar, and I'm Anthony's imaginary friend. And I'm gonna describe myself with some words that start with the same letter as my imaginary friend. I mean, as my first name. All right. I already described myself with some words that start with my first name, and all of these words mean something positive, and I am every single one of these words. And now it's time for Cesar to describe himself with some words that start with the same letter as his first name. Alright, so now we're going to research some words that start with the letter C, because Cesar starts with the letter C. Alright. Alright, Cesar. Alright, I'm Cesar. And I'm gonna describe myself with one word that starts with the letter C. Chatterbox. But I'm gonna describe myself with some more words. But my first word would be chatterbox. Alright. I am compassionate, confident, I'm creative, I'm cheer charismatic, I think. Alright, let's start all over. Cesar is compassionate, Cesar is confident, Cesar is creative, Cesar is charismatic, I think this word is. I'm sorry if I said this word incorrectly, but I think it's charismatic. Cesar is curious, Cesar is committed, Cesar is caring, Cesar is candid, Cesar is compatible, capable, I think, and he is courageous. All right, let's do AI mode to see if we can find some more words. He's capable. And sorry if I said capable. I meant to say capable. Cesar's capable. Cesar's con con conscientious. I'm not really sure how to spell this word, but I'm gonna try my best. Cesar is conscience conscientious. I want to say conscientious, but if I said this word incorrectly, I guess you guys could let me know in the comments how to spell it. Conscientious. Cesar is committed. Cesar is creative. Cesar is cooperative. Cesar is consistent. And he's Wait, did I miss some words on mines? No, I didn't. Caesar's charmastic. Cesar is compassionate. He's cordial, I think. Sorry if I said this word incorrectly, though. But, yeah. Cordial. Sorry about that. He's compassionate. He's cordial. He's cheerful. He's communicative. He's considerate. He's calm. He's courageous, I think. He's curious. He's confident. He's candid. He's clear-headed. And yeah, those are some words that Cesar can describe himself with. Those are some words that Cesar can describe himself with that start with the same letter as his first name. All right. Just in case if I miss some words, I'll do this. I'm accomplished. I'm adaptable. I'm admirable. I'm agreeable. I am altruistic. I am amazing. I am approachable, I guess. And I am articulate. 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 I think that's how you spell it. Yeah, I'm all these words. Let's see if there's some more. All right, there are a lot of words that I could describe myself with that start with the same letter as my first name, and my first name starts with the letter A. So here are some words that I could describe myself with that start with the letter A. which is the same letter as my first name. My first name starts with the letter A. My name's Anthony. And I'm going to describe myself with some words that start with the letter A because my name's Anthony. All right. I am affable. Affable. I think that's how you spell it. I apologize if I didn't say this word correctly, but yeah, affable, I think this is how you spell it. I am amiable, I think that's how you spell it. I am altruistic. I'm approachable. I am affectionate. I am amicable. Amicable, I think. I think it's either amicable or amicable, I think. Sorry if I said this word incorrectly. I am ambitious. I am accomplished. I am adept. I am analytical, I think. I am astute. I am articulate. Articulate. Yeah, I'm sorry if I said this word incorrectly, but let me know how to spell it in the comments, I guess. Alright, I am adaptable, I am adventurous, I am authentic, I am assertive, I am attentive, attentive, and I am all the cute. I am audacious. I'm sorry if I said this word incorrectly. I am active. I am animated. I am agile, I think. I am ardent, and I am appreciative. Alright, guys. I guess I'm gonna end the blog there. This is a video of me and my friend Cesar having a conversation about what we could do at school, and me and Cesar described ourselves with some words that start with some positive words that start with the same letter as our first names. Yeah. Me and Cesar were having a conversation about what we could do at school, and we described ourselves with some positive words that start with the same letter as our first name. Alright, guys, I guess I'm gonna end the blog there. Alright, goodbye. See you in the next video.